Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Hi everyone. What? Alice. Alice. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today what is that voice? Okay. Ew. Hi everyone. Oh, what is that? Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I thought it would be fun for us to discuss my first time reading the Harry Potter series books 1 through 7 at 21. So seeing as this is my first ever video, I thought it should be about something that I am either passionate about, know a lot about, or just have a lot to talk about, and that just so happens to be Harry Potter. So before there's any comments or anything of people saying that there have been videos like this, there have been some similar. I know BuzzFeed did a video that kind of touched on the idea of an older person reading the Harry Potter series for the first time, but I do believe that their concept was only the first book, and in that there was a part where I believe one of the girls said that she enjoyed it but it was a bit childish, and that I personally think is because they only did read the first book, which I'll touch on more, but so my kind of idea is to go through my feelings all the way through and just discuss how I felt about everything. Also, to give you a little bit of background on me personally, I have never read any of the entire books all the way through until this year, so this will be my first very fresh opinion on reading them at 21, like I said. For a few people that are going to watch this that are hardcore Potter fans that read when they were little or that are around my age now that read when they were younger are going to be completely confused as to how I wasn't exposed to the Potter universe younger than 21, which of course I was. I had seen all of the movies. The only one I saw in theaters was the very last one, so the second part of Deathly Hallows, and the rest I saw on DVD. That was my most exposure to the actual universe. As far as the books, I do have like a little bit of a history with them, but not exceptionally. So the very first book I did get when I was in, I believe, 4th or 5th grade. I got the first book, and that was because my cousins were really into it. They had read all the ones that were out at that time, and they couldn't wait to pick up more. They were so excited about all of the books, and they just really enjoyed the series. And seeing as I, too, really enjoyed reading, really enjoyed just delving myself into a whole universe, I was really excited to read the first book. But then I got to Keeper of Keys, I believe, and stopped. I just stopped right there, didn't think about reading anywhere further. I think for me the thing with that is I got to that point and there hadn't been the like wizarding aspect that I had expected from it just yet, and so I just cut it off there. I think I had told myself, and I was so young that I told myself, oh well, there's not any wizarding in this book, which is so crazy. There's where all the magic starts and where you just fall in love with the series is in that book. And really I just kind of cheated myself out by not reading it then because I lived so long without Harry Potter. Fast forward to 2015, I had just graduated in May and we had just moved to a new town in August. And seeing as I wasn't going to college right away, I was mainly just looking for a job to help support my family. So around that time, when I was still searching for jobs, applying for jobs, everything, I didn't have anything to do. I was basically just at home all the time. So I did go to the library. I was originally just going to check out the books because I was set on having something to do and completing the series, whether I liked it or not, just completing it, whatever. So when I went to the library, they didn't have the 2nd or 4th book, which I couldn't start the series knowing that I wouldn't be able to go all the way through. Coincidentally, that same day, they were also having a sale to where they were selling old books that either people had donated or books that were no longer going off the shelf or anything, books that had been damaged. That I didn't know until I got home. I'm looking through all of their books and I find the first Harry Potter book, which is Philosopher's Stone or Sorcerer's Stone. for wherever you are. And I picked that up. I was so excited. I just ripped it off the shelf. I was super excited. I looked at the price and that's it. And I believe it was like 50 cents, which I thought was off, but I also was like, oh my gosh, I need this for 50 cents. So I purchase the book, then I get home and I'm ready to crack it open. I'm so excited. And the first 47 pages are burnt through. And not like the full front cover of the book, just a hole burnt through. Almost like somebody had like put a cigarette out on it. That's what it looked like. So because I couldn't read that book then, I decided not to go check it out or anything. I also couldn't afford to buy one at that time. So again, I stopped reading the series. So at that point I again had tried and unsuccessfully gotten it, so I put it off to the side again and didn't think about it. I also got a job right away and I was working at a retail store for about 2 years. Then I started working as a receptionist, which was a 9-to-5 job, and we also had events a lot of weekends, so I didn't take the time to pick up any series or book really for about 3 years. Then in February of this year, which is 2018, I had an issue with that job and I no longer worked there, so I was looking for jobs. Then I just decided that I would pick up photography, which, as a lot of you may know, or those of you who don't, is not a 9-to-5 job. There are periods where I have big chunks of time where I don't have anything to do, and I just couldn't sit around anymore. So I thought, oh my gosh, this is just, I need to do it. I need to do it now. Get me the first book, I don't care how. So I went and purchased the first book, and I read it, and the rest is legitimately history. This is where it gets mushy and I tell you how much I fell in love with the series. I'm not going to go into every book specifically and everything that I loved about every book separately. I may do that in 7 separate videos later on if there's anybody that really would like that or would like to know how I felt separately about every book. I'm just going to kind of go over the overall feeling of the series. The first book is such a almost nostalgic feeling because, like I said, I did watch all of the movies, I just hadn't read the books. So going and reading all of those words that are coming directly from the author, and you get to picture this place in your head. And even though I have seen the movies, Hogwarts and everything look like, reading the book for the first time wasn't like rewatching the movie. It was like I got to put my own twist on it. I get to make up the characters' visual appearances in my head, and I get to think of what the castle would look like to myself, and it was truly a magical experience, which I hate to say because that's so cliche, but it was so much of a really welcome surprise. And to be completely honest, this year has been exceptionally hard for me, especially with no longer being with a job that was so stable, to go into something that I do love but is relatively hard to manage money. I had something that was such an escape, even as a 21-year-old, which I'm happy to make this video for anybody that's older going to see it. I was so welcomed to this universe, and it didn't matter that I had just now started reading it, even though everybody else had already read it when they were little. I still felt like it was written for me, which I know a lot of people have said, but it definitely felt like it was touching home in a lot of areas, and also was like experiencing something for the very first time. But nonetheless, it was such a good experience to read that first book all the way through, especially after trying to read it so many times previously and never getting all the way through. So once I finally got to those last few pages, I was just so excited to have completed it and gotten to where I had set a goal for myself. And after I read that first book, I had to move on to the second, and I had a feeling that I wasn't going to be able to stop there, which is exactly what happened. Reading through the second book, I really do enjoy the second book. I know a lot of opinions of the second book are kind of wishy-washy. No one truly really loves it and no one hates it. It's just kind of a their book. I know everybody that loves Harry Potter loves all of the books, but I think that's the one that has the most questionable reviews on it. For me, I really did love that storyline. Professor Lockhart will forever be one of my favorite characters, book, movie, everything. I love him truly in every single scene that he's in. I just truly love him. But my true emotions, feelings, and everything kicked in the third book. Watching the movies, I knew that Sirius was going to be one of my favorite characters. I just didn't know how much after I got to know him more in the book. Really noticing his character and seeing him in his full light and reading all of his chapters and everything, I just fell in love even more. And the third book at the very end, if you haven't read the books, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to spoil anything, but if you haven't read the books, there will be a spoiler. In the very end of the third book, when they're on the train and he's reading that letter from Sirius, and see, even now it like makes me tear up. It's so silly because it's not even like one of the really emotional scenes, but when he's like writing Harry the permission slip and he's giving Ron Pidgewiggin, and it's just like such a cute scene. It's such a good scene for Harry because Harry finally feels like he has someone. And even though during all of the books I knew that he had the Weasleys, and even though I knew that he still had people that really truly loved him, I think that was the first moment that Harry in his heart felt like he had a family, and that was just such a beautiful moment for me. I loved that moment for him, and it was the first moment that I felt truly connected to the series. Obviously, I had loved the first and second book because they made me want to read the third book. I had gotten that far already that I couldn't stop, but that scene particularly made me really, really fall in love with the character build, everything from the Harry Potter universe up to that point. After the third book, I really was just so involved in the series that I felt like I couldn't ever stop reading. So I read the rest of them, and the last few pages of Deathly Hallows are some of the pages that just made me cry from pure emotion. And I know that's not really clear and it doesn't really help you out in telling you what I was feeling, but it was so many emotions at once. I was sad because the series was over, even though there are Fantastic Beasts, which is a whole other thing that I'll talk about in another video, and even though there is the Cursed Child and everything, it was the end of the original 7. I felt happy that everything had happened the way it did, and sad from losses in the book, and everything was just coming at me at once, and it was just such a good way to end a series. I could not rave about the series enough. I just couldn't. I don't know how. After reading the entire series, I genuinely thought that I would never be able to read anything ever again that I would ever love as much, and to this day I have not. I read the whole series in July. It is now November. I have read other books in that period, just none that I've loved as much. Touching back on what was said in that BuzzFeed video, and the reason I keep bringing it up is because so many people watch BuzzFeed, and I would never want somebody that's my age or older to watch that video and think that the whole series is childish and you shouldn't read it if you're above whatever age because it's not going to suit your mentality. I personally did not feel that way at all. I read this series, as you know by now, at 21, in a time where I was having a tough time with my personal life, with my work life, with everything. When you start reading the series, it's almost like you touch in with the child in yourself, and then you go through all those experiences from the child inside you and grow with them. So you're experiencing them from a whole new point of view that I don't think that any other book could bring out of you. And that was such a amazing feeling to get back to the child in me and fall in love with a series and never want a series to end, and just feel like I know the characters so well to where I could recite all of their characteristics to you. And that was just such a good part of the series. Whether you're young or old, you're still touching into something that you used to be or that's still inside you, and it was just a really great experience. Like I've said, I couldn't rave about the series more, but I did want to touch on my feelings as an adult reading it. I have no hesitations to promote this book. I know there are millions upon millions of people that love this series, and my voice isn't going to be the one that convinces you to read it, but if I have any say in it, please read this series. It's amazing. It changed my life, and I know that's what everybody says, and I know that this is so cliche. Everyone's already read this series, but if you haven't and you're an adult, do not let the age at the beginning stop you. Let it, if anything, be a reason to start reading it and to hone into what it was like to be a kid in your first days of school, even if it's not the same, because none of us are really wizards, so they say. Even if you think that you couldn't get through that many pages, their books are too thick after, you know, the third or fourth one. That's way too many pages. It's not. The series carries you through. You want to get to the end of it, and when it's over, you just want to start it all over again, and that's the amazing thing about this series is I feel like even if you've watched the movies 100 times, which I did, and even if you have read the entire series, the storyline never gets old, and it's such a basic concept of good versus evil, and it's so amazing that such a simple concept created such an amazing base for a storyline. And it's also not as black and white as good and evil, which is so, it's amazing the depth that these stories go to. And if you have only seen the movies and you think that that's enough, I promise you it's not enough. If you really truly don't like reading, that's fine, but if you think that the movies cover everything, they don't even begin to touch on some things, and I just think that anybody going through a good or bad time in their lives, young, old, anybody should read this series. Harry Potter changed my life. I also know for a lot of people that that may seem very extreme and that a book series couldn't change your life. It did. I promise you that I could not be who I am right now if I had not read that series in the time that I did. And if right now is not the time for you to read them, that's fine. Don't read them now. But make sure you do in your lifetime, because they will make you look into things in such a different way. That is enough of my rambling. I am so sorry that I talked for this long about something that you probably already know, but I did want to touch on it from a adult standpoint, reading the series for the first time, and let you know how I felt. I've also been waving this around a lot, and I'm really sorry for that as well. If you did like this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you would like, and leave me a comment for any other videos that you would be interested in watching. Like I said, I probably will do a few separate videos for every book and touch on a few different things that I really loved from every specific book, as well as going into The Cursed Child and the Fantastic Beasts series. I am going to be seeing that movie on Friday, so I'm very excited about that. And yeah, if you have any questions or anything, just feel free to comment below, and thank you for watching. Bye.